Florida.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I turn over our segment of the debate to Mr. Hoekstra of the Intelligence Committee, I'd like to recognize our last speaker for our segment, Mr. Shuster of Pennsylvania, a member of the Anti-Terrorism Caucus.
For how long?
5 minutes.
The gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized for 5 minutes.
I thank the gentlelady. Mr. Speaker, so they go on in strange paradox, decided only to be undecided, resolved to be irresolute, adamant for drift, solid for fluidity, all-powerful to be impotent. The words of Winston Churchill on the eve of World War II ring true today as clearly as they did decades ago, describing our state of affairs. I'm disappointed with my colleagues in the majority. They spent the time and effort solidifying their caucus against the war in Iraq. They devised a number of plans to withdraw our troops. They made Iraq the focus of their agenda in November and not staying the course, their slogan. However, they stand today, as Churchill said, resolved to be irresolute in their position on Iraq. The resolution we debate in the House today is based on flawed logic. The resolution states that Congress supports the efforts of our troops in mind, but not in body. The fact is, this resolution is framed upon the idea that the current state of affairs in Iraq is beyond recovery and should be abandoned. Instead of offering any real alternatives, the Democrats have drafted a non-binding resolution that rejects the President's plan to reinforce our troops and give the Iraqi security forces the assistance they need. This resolution does not bring us one step closer to victory. This resolution does nothing more than reinforce the status quo. This resolution does show the American people that yet again, the Democrats, for all of their rhetoric, have no plan, no alternative to fight the threat of Islamic Jihad. They instead have chosen, amazingly, to simply stay the course. I will be the first to admit that despite the outstanding job that our troops on the ground have done, progress in the war is slow and frustrating. We overthrew a violent despot, only to see a new and dangerous threat emerge. But we cannot be fooled into thinking that by leaving Iraq, this threat will melt away. By the very admission of the Islamic fundamentalists, we fight this war, the only part of a larger power play to consolidate power and form a jihadist Islamic State in the center of the Middle East. In a speech released this month, Ayman al-Zawahiri praised al-Qaeda's master plan for Iraq. He asked Allah to consolidate Iraq so that it unites all our Muslim brothers in Iraq and sets up an Islamic State which will proceed to liberate Jerusalem and take steps towards reestablishment of the Caliphate. Mr. Speaker, I think it is a grave mistake for us to not take our enemy at their word. The jihadists do not want peace, they want capitulation. We ignored their threats in the 1980s and they bombed our Marine barracks in Beirut. We ignored their rhetoric in the 90s and they bombed the World Trade Center and our embassies in Africa. We ignored their threats in the days leading up to September 11th, and our world was changed forever. Democratic presidential candidate John Edwards described this resolution best when he compared it to a child standing in a corner stomping his feet. This resolution may draw headlines, but it will not change a thing. We have one commander-in-chief, not 435 separate executives. What the Congress does have is the power of the purse and the ability to cut off the funding for the war. Let's be honest. This resolution is the first step in that direction. If cutting off funding is the Democrats' plan, and I believe it is, then let them state it openly. They are no longer the voice of the opposition in Congress. They are the majority, and they have an obligation to govern. It's time for them to create a plan, a real course of success. The American people are waiting. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back the balance of his time. The gentleman from Missouri.
I yield 5 minutes to the representative from California, Diane White.